You are now being recorded. So here we go. These are my objectives. In no particular order. To be able to find info on the COWY website, some of you are probably masters of it. Those of you who are new will find that it can be rather confusing. To be able to conduct your first board and club meetings, to be aware of yearly OI reports, and in general, I have a few soapbox things I want to talk about tonight to be able to use your knowledge for a successful year. So I hope you all got the items that I sent. In those items was something called the Club Presidents-Elect Workbook. And one of those things, if you had a chance to look at it, is a list of getting started, things to do. And you'll recognize the things that are in this particular slide. We want to establish our goals and our objectives for the year so that we have some success points that we can look back at our year and say, yeah, we managed to do that. Establish your calendar, projects for the year. Sometimes we have a tendency to do the same things over and over again, but maybe because of COVID, you're supposed to do new things. Obviously, we need some money, so we have to develop and adopt a budget. Revise the club documents, never very fun. One of the things that OI likes us to do is look at our bylaws every year and make sure that they match. Kathy Sullivan and I just redid all of our documents so that we could have the wording in for co-presidents and how that would work for co-presidents. Select your committee chairs. If some people are tired of doing the same things over and over again, you need to find some new blood. And of course, you're going to plan and conduct your first board of directors meeting and conduct your first regular club meeting. When you look at the first 5 that are on this list, how many of you have already done the first 5? I see one hand.
Are you talking, excuse me, are you talking about the honor club tracking form? Are you talking about those forms? I'm sorry.
No, I'm not talking about the forms. I'm just talking about in general being ready for your year. It's just to establish your goals and objectives just as you would if you were starting any other project. And so all of us are becoming presidents as of October 1st. We want to be as organized as we possibly can by that time. So Natalie, do you have a budget already established for your year? No? Okay. We're going to talk about budgets because it makes a big deal about what you can accomplish. And as a first-time president, I found that this year was my first year to be president. And it was very important for me to understand the money and how the money worked so that you know what you can possibly do. And so I would suggest to you that you get with your treasurer and find out the budget and how it works. And we have one slide that I'm going to talk a little bit about budgeting. The calendar and projects, I'm going to talk about projects next. And so this is sort of, the next slide is sort of my soapbox. For goals and objectives, when you look at an Optimist club, we mostly fit on a spectrum of what type of club do you have. And it's a spectrum that goes from service all the way to fundraising on another end. In other words, we have clubs that don't have a very big budget because they spend time doing service projects where it's the members' time that gets spent. It's not money that gets spent, it's the members' time. And so theirs is primarily a service club. And then we have a lot of clubs, and we have some clubs in our district that are just great in fundraising. And Linda's club is a great example of that. That they're terrific fundraisers, and they donate a lot of money to a lot of organizations. And so there are clubs in our district that are on this spectrum between service and fundraising. I think Tamarack Optimist Club is sort of in the middle on this one. And I think it's important for a club to be really cognizant of who they are and where they fit on this spectrum. And I think it's worth having a conversation about this, about who do we want to be and how are we being affected by this social distancing and the COVID piece. And I know Tamarack's very much affected by the fact that we can't get into any classrooms because most of our projects in the past have been in classrooms. So we're greatly affected, and we're having to think of new things that we have to do this year. And I think it's worth thinking about this and having this conversation with the board, if not all of the members in the club. And there's another thing that I think that we, given what this world looks like right now, is what do we have control over? And a lot of us don't think that we have very much control. This concept of a circle of control comes from a gentleman by the name of Stephen COWY, who wrote a book of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And his thought was that there are all sorts of things in the world. We listen to the news, we read books, people talk to us. There are all sorts of things that concern us and impact us. But that the things that we control are really much smaller. We don't have much control over things. But we do have the circle that we have, that's the circle of influence, is bigger. So how can we, the point he was trying to make was, how can we increase our circle of control, and how can we increase our circle of influence? So I throw out the philosophical question to all of you, and if you'll unmute yourselves for this discussion, that would be great. What does your club control? What do you have control over? Chris?
You have control over your meetings to some extent.
Unless you're meeting with kindergartners, right?
Well, that, but sometimes even during our Optimist meetings, all of a sudden they go a different way and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I pull them back in and get back on topic? So you do have control over the meeting to a certain extent.
Okay. Anybody else? What else do you have control over?
Yourself.
Yourself? Yeah. Anything else that you think you have control over?
The budget?
You have control over the budget. Whether you raise the funds or not's another issue, but you have a control over that plan.
Sometimes.
Linda?
Sometimes. You know, I've experienced sometimes somebody has a great idea and they want to go with it, and then we take a vote, and sometimes it goes, and sometimes you get resistance. So, you know, it gets a little sticky sometimes, that, and you know, times that we voted no on things that, you know, they didn't go. So I think there's always influencers out there. But I really think that the president does have control. And I think officers to some degree do as well. You know, the circle of concern, I think everyone has.
Yes, yes. We all have different things that impact us depending on how we grew up and what our life experiences have been, and those things that capture our attention at any one point in time. And I think that we could work more on what do we have influence over.
That's
we
a challenge.
that's the challenge. We could have more conversations about and be more cognizant about of, oh, okay, where is the influence that we have right now? Where are our points of influence? And can we expand that in any way so that we can be more successful in reaching more kids or raising more money or whatever it is that our goals are. So that's the first part of my soapbox speech for the evening is to pay attention to what kind of club do you want to be and what can you control and what can you influence and how does that affect what your budget is and the projects that you do. Okay. Now, to me, and Jeanette and Kathy laugh because this has been my watchword for the year, is ROI. And ROI means return on investment. So if you were president of a company, you would be concerned about ROI that would be defined as your profits, your market share, how are you doing as a company? But as the president of a nonprofit, our ROI, I see it as different. I see it as having to do with our members. What is their personal ROI for being a member of an Optimist club? What needs to happen for them to feel that their time and their dues and whatever else money they put in makes it all worthwhile? This was brought home to me this week as our treasurer sent out a letter to all of the members saying, are you going to be a member next year? Please let me know. And we've had at least 5 ladies. Our club is all women. We've had at least 5 ladies say, no, I'm not going to be a member next year for various reasons. And they're all legitimate reasons. But it meant that the club did not have a good return on investment for them. For whatever that reason may be, because they moved farther away, they didn't feel connected to the members, they didn't feel that we did enough activities. So I think we need to look at our projects and how we organize ourselves and how we get people to be engaged in what we're doing. So that for them, there is a sense, no matter if they spent weeks and weeks and weeks on a project and they spent lots of time and effort on it and they're just exhausted at the end of it, I'd still like them to feel that it was worth the time and the effort. I'd like them to have a personal return on investment. And so I think it takes having some conversations to be sure that that's what's happening. So that those 2 items, the ROI and the thinking of what kind of club you want to be, that's my soapbox for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll go on to the regular, ordinary stuff from here.
Linda, are you thinking about like this, Natalie? Sorry, are you thinking about like recognizing and when you're kind of going in and about recognizing and appreciating, just really kind of show them your gratitude and recognizing them and kind of pull them in the front a little bit and kind of doing that? Is
exactly,
that
or even one-on-one. Some people are become embarrassed if they're put in front of the group.
Okay.
But no, I don't know of anybody who doesn't like a personal one-on-one thank you.
Maybe even like a handwritten note or
a handwritten note or a phone call,
yeah.
a conversation. Something like that to let them know that their efforts are appreciated, I think go a long way.
Good, thank you.
All right, let's talk about finances. So Natalie, since you don't know what your budget looks like, let's talk about some finances here. To me, when I first learned about our budget, I had read a sentence in our handbook that said that our budget was divided into 2 sections. Oh, okay, the budget's divided into 2 sections. Well, that didn't mean a whole lot to me until I realized how that worked. So your budget needs to be, as defined by OI, you need to have a section where the monies are for your services, for your projects, and that's money that's raised from the community and returned to the community is how it's defined. All right. And then you have the general fund, which is the administrative piece of your budget. And those are our dues and things that we do. For example, Tamarack Club, one time a year, we do something at the Rockies game and we earn money for doing that. So that goes in our administrative fund. We haven't told, we're serving the Rockies, not the Optimists at that point in time. And so we're earning money that way. And so that goes in our administrative budget. And what you need to understand is that money that is sitting in the general fund, the administrative fund, can be used for your projects. But the money that's sitting in the project fund cannot be used for administration. So you can't pay for your meeting place or any other kind of administrative things out of those monies that you've got sitting in the service fund or the youth fund, whatever your budget calls it. Okay. And so how does that concept between the division between those two affect how you advertise for fundraising events? So you need to be real clear about that. So Dan, when Monaco South goes and raises money, what are you guys being clear about when you advertise what you're doing?
Well, when you say advertise, you know, our biggest fundraiser is the tree lot. And I think that we do a very good job at listing at the tree lot what types of programs we do. And those funds is what we decide at our budget meeting every year, you know, what we're going to spend it on for programming. But I think people, when they go to the tree lot, we have posters up that say what it's going to be spent on.
And it's very clear that you're raising money for your projects.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so Linda, when you all are raising funds, how do you advertise?
We promote the project that we're raising funds for. So tonight we had a meeting and before this one and talked about a project that we're raising funds for. Well, we're talking about a fundraiser actually for the 31st that's raising funds for a project that's brand new to our club, and we're really excited about it. But it's a youth award program in the schools, and one of our members is really committed to this, and it's new for us because we've not had the opportunity to infiltrate schools in our community. So this is really a first, and so the fundraiser is going to show proceeds going to this particular project.
Okay, all right,
That it's going solely for that. Yeah.
good, okay, thank you. And you know that our fiscal year starts October 1st and goes to September 30th, which is confusing to some of your newer members when they come on board and you talk about the year, and they get confused and think it's a calendar year rather than our fiscal year. All right, next slide. Meetings, meetings, meetings. There seem to be a lot of them. And there's a big difference between a board meeting and a club meeting. The board meetings are 90% business. You need to have an agenda, and I would assume that there's some form that has been used in the past that you can use for your agenda for your meetings. And you need to use Robert's Rules of Order. On the Club Presidents-Elect's workbook that I sent out to you, I included an addendum that has the Robert's Rules of Order on it. So if you look at that, that's a cheat sheet for the Robert's Rules. And one of the things that I found about the Roberts rules, and that's on the next slide, is it really helps you organize your meeting if you use it. Club meetings, you're going to have an agenda and you have a program that's fun and enlightening. It gives them members a chance to know each other, and you want to keep them coming back, because this is where you get them to sign up for projects and fundraising and things like that. But it's not the business of the group. The board meeting is the business of the group. And that's the difference between the two. What I found when I started as president was that our board had a habit of starting a conversation. We'd have a topic on the agenda and we would start a conversation and a discussion. And then all of a sudden somebody would say, well, we need to make a motion. Robert's rules are really the other way around. You need to start with the motion and somebody seconds it. The chairman restates it, and then you have your discussion. And if you've done a good job of stating your motion, it helps to focus the discussion. So if somebody says, for example, I move that we support Children's Hospital with a donation, your discussion is going to go all over the place. But if the motion says, I move that we donate $300 to Children's Hospital for toys in the cancer center, then that's what your discussion is going to be about. Now, you may in the discussion decide to amend that motion and maybe make it not toys, but books or whatever. But it gets you to the point where when people finally vote, they know exactly what they're voting on. It's not some nebulous thing. And has anybody had any experience with Robert's rules where it's helped you out in your discussions? Kathy?
Yes, in my other organization also, I have to do, when I was worthy matron, I had to go Robert's Rules of Order. And it works.
It works.
So,
Oh,
I would just say
Linda?
it creates good order.
Yes. Yeah. Jeanette, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I can recall too, as president, when we'd get into these discussions, I would sort of keep a 10-minute limit. If we went over 10 minutes, I'd say this needs to go to committee, because otherwise you're spending your whole meeting on, you know, one item and you've got 5 or 6 other things to cover. And it usually either would draw it to a close, and if we were undecided, then we'd send it to a committee for further look, or go ahead and vote on it and get it done. So it doesn't just feed on itself.
And another thing that you can do is you can table that vote, but you need to table it for a particular point in time in the future. It can't just be tabled. You have to have a specific date that you're going to bring it back. Yes, very definitely. All right, and our last slide is about reports and recognition, and I'm going to cover some of this, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the OI site, and we're going to look at some of the most important things that are sitting on that OI site so that you can find them. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to go to OI. If you've never been a president before, you may not have your password yet to get into the officers section of OI. But this is what you'll see when that happens. It will take you to your club's page with all sorts of information. And you'll notice that even though OI doesn't have a way to designate this, Kathy and I are co-presidents next year. It's sort of an experiment to see how it can possibly work, and we're going to make sure that it's a success. You have all of your members, and you can choose to feature different memberships and even the people who have left your company. The piece that's important up here is if you look at reports. This is one of the places where you can find the reports that they're talking about. If you've already taken the LMS classes, you know that there's one about different reports that you have to do. Here's the club roster adjustments report, which the secretary usually fills out when you get new members or when members leave. Here's where you'll find one of the copies. You'll find these reports are in different places in this website, but this is the easiest place to find them. Here's where the club pride report is that you do at the end of your year. This is where you'll find club bylaws. And what I didn't realize, we did our bylaws in the spring and had them passed by OI. And so when Kathy and I worked on reworking the information in it for co-presidents, I went in here to see that they had our bylaws, and I found out that if you send them a Word document, it will not show up that what your bylaws are. Your current bylaws will only show if you fill it in on an online form. So just an FYI for that one. The club officer report, this is one that you'll notice this date was September 1st here. It's usually in May that you have to turn in this report of who your club officers are going to be for the next year. And then Gunnar Neumann is a big fan of this report, which is the T-Shot report, which if you look at it for your current year, it'll show you how many members you started with at the beginning of the year. And so for this year, we started with 93 members on October 1st. We now have 88. We've lost some, and you'll see this net loss. This line will help you keep track of the piece of the Honor Club form. To be an Honor Club, you have to get a +3 at the end of the year. So this number right here, year to date, needs to be a +3 at the end of September of next year for you to be considered an Honor Club. So let's go back to, I don't know whether I can get this to, there we go. I want to get out of this report. All right, let's go to member resources, and this is where you're going to find a wealth of information. And I'm going to scroll down to the member services piece that's right here in the middle. And as I bring this up, notice all the types of things that are sitting here that are for your information. One of the things that the LMS talks about is the ICD 135. These are the recognition and awards. These are the ones for the next year that are in here. And these are the awards that you can earn as a club, as a district, as a lieutenant governor, those kinds of things. These awards right here, the Imagine Presidential Incentives, these are Adrian Elcock's awards, and I don't know whether the new president is going to come up with new ones or not. And then here are tracking forms where you can get your Honor Club tracking form. And my suggestion is that at the first board meeting that you hand out that Honor Club tracking form and you look at what's on there with your board members and decide can we do this for the year? It is a sign of a healthy group if you become an honor club and as you strive to become an honor club. The other place I want to show you is, and here's the piece on leadership development over here. And if you haven't done it already, here's where your learning management system is. And to sign up for it and actually take those classes. The other thing I wanted to show you is down here at teaching materials. I haven't covered everything that you need to know. I've given you some handouts, I've done some slides, but here's the club president-elect training from OI. There's all of it in here. These PowerPoints are from previous years. So if you see something in here that you'd like to become better acquainted with, this is where you're going to find it, is in the teaching materials piece of the main category of member resources and leadership development. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And so I want to get back to everybody, and that's my piece of the dog and pony show for this evening. But I'd like to ask the group, what other questions do you have? What other comments do you want to make for as ideas for the rest of the people that are in this?
Linda, this is Dan. I have a question. I have looked through all my emails and I cannot find anything from you for the President-elect workbook. I have not received that.
All right, I will send that to you. When we're finished, I'll send that out.
I appreciate that.
And what's your email address?
Dan at Dan Rodriguez, and that's DANRODRIGUEZ.com.
Okay. All right.
And I would assume that on the LMS classes, I saw this at the convention. I didn't go on yet. That somebody would have my password and how to get onto that.
Passwords are
Or my username. I don't even know what.
yeah, you might want to check with
Greg,
with Greg. You might want to check with your secretary treasurer.
yeah,
Your
Greg
club
Young.
was supposed to have or there's supposed to be a password for presidents. I didn't receive that, so I just paid my $6 and did the classes.
Yeah, I did too.
I did too.
Yeah. I paid the $6 and then I sent in a request and they sent me a password.
Oh, okay.
That's backwards.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember my password from 16 years ago. So, you know, that was the thing.
Well, they had a different password for the LMS. The LMS had a separate password depending on what your job was going to be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And it wasn't very well advertised. I didn't think so. I just paid my $6.
So Linda, I have a question.
Sure.
It's my understanding if we have not completed the LMS training, that our club is not eligible for awards and recognition. Is that true?
That piece, I don't know. I think they rescinded that because so many people had a problem getting in. I know that for our district, they wanted everybody to have taken the LMS stuff before we did this training tonight.
Right.
But I was in a meeting with Tony and the other people planning the convention this week, and they said that didn't count, that it was just going to be an adjunct add-on later because so many people had a problem getting in. So, but as far as OI goes, I have no idea. I'm sorry that I don't have the answer to that.
That's okay. It was the pressure that we were under. I mean, a couple of us in our club, it had to happen or else.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Or maybe that's just our level of guilt and how we were raised. I don't know.
Chris, what do you know?
It might be just your level of guilt because as a lieutenant governor for Zone 8, that is the first time I've ever heard that about awards. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. But obviously you're in this role, so we all put on a lot of guilt on ourselves, because that's why I've done every single training available and I'm on this one again. So I think that's what it is.
Kindred spirits.
Wow. That makes me look really bad.
Something I do to help manage myself, because I'm also working full time, and I mean it's a lot. It's a lot. Is I purposely like set aside an hour a week, and I do it on my Saturday mornings to really look through my paperwork, look through what I need to do on President, write a note card, make a few phone calls, just try to plan for not just this week, but I try to plan for the year. And so it's this week, next week, this month, next month, 3 months down the road. And just by setting aside that hour helps me know, hey, that's my time for this job. A lot of times I never even use the whole hour. I mean, some weeks I was done in 20 minutes because it was just one of those weeks. So it just helped me to know. Otherwise I struggle with when am I going to fit this all in, because it can become overwhelming when you look at all these forms. But just give yourself, even if it's from 9 to 10 every Saturday morning, that's your time.
Good advice. Thank you.
Yeah. So Natalie, what are you the most anxious about?
Well, I think, I mean, I've been part of the board I was part of the board before, and then I've been president vice president the past year. And so, I mean, I'm a little bit familiar, and we got a lot of past presidents amongst me, so I feel like I'm in good hands. And, and I just, one thing I've just learned about life, there is no perfect. You just got to do the best you can and be gracious with yourself, because I'm very much a perfectionist. So this is stressing me out a little bit right now, because everybody has done this training. They're talking about all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have a password to log into this OI. And I'm like, oh, what have I not done? So I'm a little anxious now, but I just decided, we all, okay, it's going to be okay. Nobody's going to get killed over this, that it's going to be okay. And, and I got a lot of support. I'm pretty optimistic about that. We got a good board and some good people on the board, and many of them have done it many times before. So I'm sure they'll hold my hand, I hope. And
Yes.
if not, hey, it's okay. Life goes on.
Yes.
I'm probably going to make mistakes, and as long as it doesn't hurt anybody and nobody gets hurt, I think we'll be okay. So I'm just giving myself some grace, and just, I feel like I said again, I feel like I got some really big shoes to fill here, because I'm the first female. So I'm probably going to be really looked upon, but like I said, it's okay. It's okay.
It is. We have faith in you.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, we were supposed to have our board meeting tonight, and I was like, no, I can't, because I gotta do this. I just got the email from, from Troy. And so now I got everybody pushed out till Thursday. So I got Zoom meeting tonight with you guys, Zoom meeting tomorrow night with my vice president of my HOA board, and then my other board on Thursday. So every night this week is just, Zoom. Zooming right along.
Yeah, Chris.
Another suggestion is, and I know it's hard, but make it your meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been done a certain way, and no offense, but sometimes you just need to get in there and change it up a little bit.
Yes.
Another suggestion that I have is something that I did, because you're going to have guest speakers that all of a sudden don't show up, and you're going to be like, So what I did is I copied the creed and I cut it out line by line. So I had maybe however many copies you'd need, and then I paper clipped them together. So when all of a sudden we had a guest speaker not show, and you had 20 or 25 minutes of downtime, I would pass out the same line to everyone in the room, or we'd all share copies or whatever. You could put it up on a Zoom screen. And then I never forced people to talk, but we're all optimists. We like to talk. So we would go around and say, what does this mean to me? Or how has the Optimist Club and being an optimist changed this in me? And so it's just like, you know, and that is what rejuvenates you. Even if you've been in it for years, hearing somebody else's take on one of the lines of the creed. So I'm always prepared with those just in case you have a no-show.
That's a good idea. Thank you for that advice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Is there anybody else want to share some advice?
On some days
Here,
that we don't,
Kathy.
yeah, on some days that we don't, a speaker doesn't show up or something, what we designate also will be our last meeting of the month is going to be like a let's talk, where we'll have an activity that we'll be doing, or we just let the club express their different ideas or you know, concerns or whatever. So we'll have speakers 3 times a month, and then that one will be an extra.
Yes, this next week we're doing 2 truths and a lie in breakout groups.
And that is hard to come up with, Linda. What's true and what's false, I don't know.
Yeah, we're trying to find more time just to share with each other, to get to know each other better.
Did we tell them about the idea that we're doing with we're copying Monaco South a little bit on an All About Me. And so each newsletter that we put out, we go once a month, and we'll highlight people in the newsletter on the spotlight so that people get to know each other better.
And you know, that's something that I started this last week. I ran the meeting, and we're doing a spotlight of a member. That was the most popular thing we did. It's great, and that goes to talking about what on the ROI. What's in it for me is an opportunity for them to be spotlighted.
Yes, yes. And
I have a
suggestion
on your agendas
too.
So.
Yeah. One of the things that I added to our agendas, I've spent many years in organizations doing organization development, and I used to teach effective business meetings. And so one of the things I added to the agenda were 2 items. One was, what decisions did we make today? Because I found in groups, you have discussions and there's supposedly a decision, but nobody can remember exactly what that decision was at the end. So if at the end of the meeting, you actually state what your decisions were, then you can see surprised expressions on people's faces if they weren't paying attention. and the other one was, what assignments did we give people? So just to do some kind of summary at the end of what decisions did we make and who has what assignments is my suggestion for your agendas. And I'm sorry, Kathy, I interrupted you. Okay. All right. So if nobody has any other suggestions, I thank you all for being here this evening and joining with us. And I hope that you have successful years and use each other as resources. Of course, you have resources in your clubs, but use each other as resources. The more people that we have the ability to contact and meet with, the better off we're going to be. So I'm going to stop the recording now.